My sister told my 10-year-old son he wasn't family, so I canceled her mortgage and booked us a $23,000 Bahamas trip. Hi, I'm Nathan, 36, and last Thanksgiving, my sister told my 10-year-old son he wasn't family, right in front of everyone. So I stood up, walked out with him, and the next week, posted photos of our $23,000 Bahamas trip. When she called, panicked, asking how I could afford it, I told her. Easy. I paused paying your mortgage. By the time Caroline leaned over Luke's plate and called him sweetheart, I already knew it was coming. She had that bright, smug look she gets when she's about to say something mean and make it sound like a joke. She pushed the turkey platter away with this fake nice smile and said loud enough for everyone to hear, Sweetheart, Thanksgiving turkey is for family. Luke froze. He was holding his plate out, empty, just waiting for someone to serve him. And instead, my sister treated him like he was asking for seconds at a stranger's table. A couple people chuckled. The kind of laugh people do when they're not sure if it's funny but they don't want to be the only one not laughing. My mom looked into her wine like she was hoping to drown in it. My dad didn't even pause carving. I saw the whole thing, the way my son's ears went red, then his eyes dropped, then he slowly pulled his plate back to himself. One sad scoop of mashed potatoes sat in the middle like a joke. He didn't speak. He didn't say, "But I'm family." He just sat there and swallowed it. All of it. And me? I sat there too. Fork in hand. Heart thudding like I'd just run 5 miles. Every cell in my body wanted to flip the table. But I didn't. I waited. Caroline kept going. You can have more potatoes, Luke. She added, like she was being generous. You had pizza at your dad's this week, right? You're not missing out. Luke mumbled. Yeah, it's okay. It was not okay. Not the turkey. Not the humiliation. Not the way nobody said a word. Not the way my parents kept the peace by saying nothing. I pushed my chair back. Loud. Hey buddy. I said. Grab your hoodie. He looked up at me, confused, like now? Yeah. I said. We're leaving. That's when my dad finally looked up. Sam, come on. We just sat down. I didn't even look at him. I just said it again. Look. Hoodie. Caroline laughed that sharp little laugh. You're seriously leaving over turkey? No. I said. I'm leaving because I don't let anyone talk to my son like that. Luke stood without a word. The silence at the table was suffocating, like someone had dropped a lid over the room. I walked him out without saying goodbye. Past the framed family photos on the wall, only one of which had Luke in it, half cropped on the edge. Past the smell of cinnamon candles and roasted turkey. Past people who'd rather keep things quiet than keep things kind. We got in the car and drove home in silence. That's when I realized I had been funding the roof over these people's heads. Caroline's mortgage. $1,480 a month. Every month. For 3 years. Because her husband Todd lost work and never really got back on his feet. Because they had kids and cried and called me family. But when it came time to make a plate for my son, he didn't count. So the next morning, I sat down with my coffee, opened my bank account, and clicked Cancel recurring payment. A box popped up. Are you sure? Yes. I was sure. The cancellation email hit my inbox at 6:08 a.m. Your recurring payment to Caroline and Todd, Wells Fargo Mortgage, has been cancelled. I stared at it like it might apologize. It didn't. It just confirmed what I already knew. I'd been paying for a family that didn't treat my kid like theirs. For 3 years, I'd auto-transferred $1,480 every month because Caroline cried in a bank parking lot, said they were going to lose the house, and swore it was temporary. I didn't even blink. I set up the payments like I was setting up Netflix. Habitual. She said 3 months. It became 36. They never missed a beat. Never missed a holiday. Never missed a single opportunity to remind me I was single, that I worked too much, that Luke was a little grown up. And a bit too soft. And every time I showed up with a check or paid for repairs or took her kids back to school shopping. Just to help. I thought I was earning a place. I wasn't. I was buying silence. Buying access. That Thanksgiving? That was them finally saying what they really felt. Luke wasn't one of theirs. And me? I was only useful while the money flowed. So I made a new budget. A new line item. Experiences with Luke, $1,200 per month. I didn't need revenge. I didn't need a screaming match. I needed my son to know that when people show you who they are, you get to walk away. I opened another tab. Flights. I remembered the ad that played the night before Thanksgiving. That stupid perfect video of a dad and son snorkeling in water so blue it looked fake. Luke had stared at it for 5 seconds longer than necessary, whispered, "That looks insane," and smiled like someone who'd already decided it was out of reach. It wasn't. I filtered for nonstop flights from Dallas. Bahamas. All-inclusive resort. Snorkeling trip. First-class seats. Ocean view suite. That dolphin thing he once mentioned in passing. Total, $23,000. 15 months of someone else's mortgage. I didn't flinch. I clicked book. The next morning, Luke walked into the kitchen still half asleep, hair sticking out sideways, wearing Star Wars pajamas. I handed him a plate of pancakes. "Got a question," I said. "If you could go anywhere with me for a week, no school, no rules, where would it be?" He blinked. "Anywhere?" "Anywhere." He barely thought. "That place with the blue water. Where they swam with the yellow fish?" I spun the laptop toward him. The booking confirmation was on the screen. "For real?" he said, eyes wide. "For real," I said. "We leave Friday." He launched into me like I'd just handed him the moon. For the first time in a long time, I knew I wasn't overreacting. I was making things right. And yeah, I posted the photos. Luke in snorkel gear. Luke eating room service in bed. Luke on a hammock, smiling like the world was finally calibrated in his favor. Caption? Thankful looked a little different this year. 12 minutes later, my phone rang. Caroline. I let it ring twice. Then picked up. "What the hell, Nathan? What the hell, Nathan?" Caroline snapped. "No hello. No, how was the trip?" "Just straight to panic." "A whole week in the Bahamas? First class?" Luke posted a picture with dolphins, Nathan. Dolphins. I took a long sip of my coffee. Still barefoot, still sunburned, still not in the mood. "Hi, Caroline," I said calmly. "Nice to hear your voice." She didn't even blink. "How can you afford that?" Todd saw the photos. "You stayed at the Atlantis? Did you win the lottery or something?" "No," I said. "I just paused paying your mortgage." Silence. Not just silence, that kind of silence. The kind where you can hear someone's brain rebooting like an old desktop. "You what?" She finally choked. "I canceled the monthly payment. Last week. The money's going to my son now. You know, Luke? The one you refused to serve turkey to." "Oh my God!" she snapped, her voice shooting up an octave. "You can't just stop, Nathan. We built our whole budget around your support." "That's not my problem," I said, still leaning on the counter like I had all day. "You built your life around someone else's money, Caroline. I was that money. I'm not anymore. But we'll lose the house." "Then maybe," I said. "You shouldn't have made a 10-year-old boy feel like a guest in the one place I was keeping a roof over your head." "Oh, come on," she tried. It was a joke. He had pizza at his dad's, he wasn't starving. "Mom's been crying all week. You embarrassed the whole family walking out like that." "Mom can cry," I said. "She can also cook something besides potatoes if she wants my kid to eat. But I'm done paying for access to a table where he's treated like an outsider." "You're punishing my kids." "No," I said. "I'm choosing mine." Her voice went flat, deadly. "This is financial abuse." "No," I said calmly again. "This is a budget adjustment. You had 36 months of support. Now I'm reallocating those funds. You'll figure it out." Then I hung up. She texted immediately. "You're selfish. Luke won't even remember this trip. But your niece will remember if she ends up homeless. Hope you're proud." I didn't answer. Instead, I walked down the hall and found Luke at the dining table, building a Lego spaceship in his pajamas. That resort bracelet was still on his wrist. He looked up. "Did something happen?" "Nothing," I said. "Just adjusting the noise level." He grinned. "Good. I like it quiet." And right then I realized. That was the real trip I'd paid for. Not the flights. Not the dolphins. Not the sunshine. Just this. My kid, sitting in peace, in a house where he never has to wonder if he belongs. I didn't call anyone after that. Not my parents. Not my sister. I didn't feel the need to explain myself to a family that had never once explained themselves to my kid. But Caroline? Oh, she got busy. By Monday, the text came in like clockwork. You're punishing us for something small. Todd's hours just got cut again. If we lose the house, it's on you. And then the shift, because there's always a shift. She started sending pictures. Sad ones? Her kids on the couch in mismatched pajamas. A blurry photo of an envelope marked final notice from the mortgage company. One of her standing in the driveway with a box like they were already packing. Then finally, a photo of the bank branch. The caption read, "Hope you're happy." It should have hit me harder. But it didn't. Because here's the truth no one talks about: when you've spent 3 years funding someone else's life, and they still treat your kid like a footnote, that guilt button eventually wears out. I didn't feel cruel. I felt clear. But just to be sure, I forwarded the mortgage cancellation email to myself again. It still read, "Your recurring payment has been successfully cancelled." And beneath it, "Next payment due, not scheduled." I read it 3 times. Then I made Luke dinner. Chicken nuggets, honey dip, his favorite smoothie. We watched a space documentary on the couch. He told me a fact about Jupiter storms like it was breaking news. That night, I added something else to our shared spreadsheet. Luke and Dad trips fund. Starting balance, $1,200. Next trip, TBD. The next morning, my mom called. I didn't answer. She left a voicemail that started with, "Samuel, we need to talk," and ended with, "Caroline is hysterical." I texted back instead, "I won't fund a family that won't feed my son." Her reply came in fast. "You're overreacting. No one said Luke wasn't family. Caroline made a silly comment. Don't throw away years of love over turkey." I stared at the screen, thinking, it was never about the turkey. It was about all the years I quietly paid my way into a circle that never quite let us in. The birthdays where Luke got a clearance rack board game while his cousins got Switches. The group photos where he was cropped out. The Six Flags trip where the caption said, "All the grandkids," and he had to sit beside me and count the kids on the screen. He'd been doing the math for years. All I did was finally balance the equation. I thought the fallout might slow down after a few days. It didn't. Caroline went nuclear. She started calling it financial abandonment, which is rich coming from someone who treated my bank account like a seasonal subscription. Then came the new tactic, guilt inflation. She sent a group text to the whole family, including cousins I hadn't heard from in years. Nathan pulled his support with zero warning. Todd and I are trying to stay strong for the kids, but this is devastating. I'm not asking for pity, just prayers. I didn't reply. But I did get a ping 2 hours later from my cousin Jenna. "Hey. Just wanted to say. I saw what happened. You're not crazy." I'd have walked out too. That one meant more than I expected. It's a weird thing, how a single person saying, "I see you," can undo the weight of 100 people acting like you're overreacting. The next day, Luke brought home a school assignment, a little fill-in-the-blank Thanksgiving worksheet they did late because of the break. "I'm thankful for," he wrote, "my dad. Because he always makes sure I feel wanted." That was it. Simple. Crayon scrawled. And it leveled me. Later that night, I took a walk around our neighborhood just to clear my head. Quiet streets, a few holiday lights already up. And I thought about all the years I'd spent trying to be the good son, the helper, the fixer. I funded their comfort, thinking it would make room for my son. But money doesn't buy belonging. It just buys a chair you can be asked to leave from. So I decided to do something else with that money. Not a splurge. Not a flex. An investment. In Luke. I logged into my travel rewards app and set alerts for spring break destinations. Pulled up his school calendar. Created a folder labeled Adventures. He didn't know it yet, but we were going to see more of the world. And he was going to know, without question, he belonged in it. No more waiting for crumbs from people who brought a whole damn feast to their own kids and called it fair. And the best part? My phone was quiet. Caroline and Todd were still blocked. My parents' group thread had been muted and buried under the name Noise. The only notification I got that day? A new email. Subject line: "Hope you're doing okay." From Jenna again. Inside was a single sentence. "Some people don't deserve access to your peace. Protect it anyway." I read it twice. Smiled. Then went to go help Luke build a Lego moon base in the living room. It looked a lot like a fresh start. The next big ripple came at Christmas. We weren't invited. No surprise text. No email. Not even the fake friendly "Hope to see you" card my mom usually sends with a picture of poinsettias and cursive guilt. But they did post. Oh, they posted a group photo under my parents' tree: Caroline, Todd, their kids, my parents, a few cousins. Everyone in matching red and green plaid pajamas. Caption: all of us together, just like always. Luke saw it while we were making cookies. He didn't say a word. Just stared at the photo. Then quietly went back to lining up the cranberry sauce slices like it was a science project. I watched him. I waited for a question. It never came. But later, when we were setting the table for our tiny Christmas Eve dinner, just the two of us, he paused, looked at the two empty chairs at the end, and asked, "Should we move these?" "No," I said, setting down the gravy. "Leave them." "Why?" "They're for people who chose not to be here." He nodded. Didn't ask who? Didn't need to. That night, we ate by candlelight: turkey, mashed potatoes, rolls, the works. I made everything from scratch except the cranberry sauce because tradition. When it came time to serve the turkey, I carved the first big piece onto his plate. "For the heart of the family," I said. Luke blinked at me, grinning. "That's such a weird line, Dad. You're stuck with my writing." He raised his fork. "I'll allow it." We laughed. Ate too much. Fell asleep watching the Muppet Christmas Carol for the third year in a row. I didn't miss the noise. Not the subtle digs. Not the obligation. Not the polite silence while my kid was sidelined. We woke up to snow. Not a lot, but enough to make everything feel soft and quiet. Luke opened his gifts, nothing extravagant, but thoughtful. A telescope attachment for his phone. A hoodie with NASA patches. A framed print of the Bahamas photo with "Best trip ever" written on the bottom in Sharpie. He loved it all. He didn't even glance at the door. And when he finished opening everything, he handed me one small, folded paper. It was a hand-drawn chart with stick figures. Me. Him. Jenna's twins. Two empty chairs with question marks. Across the top, he'd written in bold, uneven letters: "Thanksgiving equals me plus Dad plus people who act like family." It took everything in me not to cry. Instead, I said, "This is going on the fridge forever." And it did. Right next to the photo of him snorkeling with yellow fish. We didn't have a crowd. We didn't have matching pajamas. But we had truth. And peace. And laughter that didn't come at anyone's expense. That was enough. Actually, it was everything. The first message of the new year came from my dad. Just one line. "Your mother is sick over all of this." I read it twice. Then deleted it. No reply. No folder for "sick over all of this." I'd spent years misreading guilt as love, and I was done mislabeling things. Next came the paper mail. Caroline sent me a thick envelope. Inside, overdue notices, screenshots of her mortgage app, a letter handwritten on pink stationery that read, and I quote, "If we lose the house, it's because you changed." Not us. No apology. No reflection. Just math she couldn't manipulate anymore. I didn't reply. I almost threw it out. But instead I folded the letter, wrote one sentence on the back, and mailed it back. "If you lose the house, it's because you lived in one you couldn't afford and treated the person covering it like an ATM." Then I blocked her again. I expected backlash. I expected a cousin dogpile. A surprise group chat titled, "Let's Fix This," full of lectures and scripture quotes, and high school memories I never shared the nostalgia for. But silence. The kind of silence that only shows up when people finally realize you're not bluffing. Luke and I didn't talk about any of it. Not directly. But one Saturday in February, we went to the planetarium. They had this exhibit on Mars colonies, and we walked through the mock-up of a space kitchen with oxygen tubes and a shelf of vacuum-sealed chili. On the way out, he tugged my sleeve and said, "I'd go to Mars with you." "Really?" I asked. "No friends, no internet?" He nodded. "Yeah. Because you'd make it feel like home." That line sat with me all night. Because that was the thing, wasn't it? Home isn't people who share your last name. It's people who show up. And honestly, I wasn't sad to lose anyone who made my son feel less than. I wasn't angry anymore. I was just done. A few days later, I got a message from Jenna. "You hosting anything for Thanksgiving this year?" asking for me and a tray of stuffing. I texted back. Cabin. 2 bedrooms. Fireplace. We've got space if you bring the marshmallows. We booked it 2 weeks later. Just a small place by a lake. Cozy. Quiet. Full of light. No head of the table. No power seating. No turkey politics. This time, I set the table with mismatched plates. Luke helped fold napkins into little triangles. And at the end of the table? 2 empty chairs again. What are those for? He asked. People who chose not to be here. I said. They can stay that way. He nodded once. Then went back to lighting the cranberry candles we found at Target. And when the turkey came out, I served him the biggest slice on the platter. Thanks, he said, grinning. For treating me like family. Always, I said. Because you are the family. That Thanksgiving at the lake cabin was the first time I'd hosted anything that felt real. No passive-aggressive seating charts. No whispered jabs disguised as jokes. No side eyes when I brought store-bought pie instead of homemade. Just Jenna, her twins, Luke, and me. We made too much food. We burned one of the casseroles. The oven smoked for a full 5 minutes. The twins kept sneaking sips of sparkling cider like they were pulling off a heist. It was loud, chaotic, and imperfect in the best ways. And when we sat down to eat, no one made speeches. No one said, "Is everyone here?" or paused waiting for Caroline's family to join by FaceTime. Because everyone who wanted to be there was already sitting. Luke sat between Jenna's boys like he belonged there, because he did. Halfway through dinner, he leaned over and whispered, "This feels better than last year." I smiled. "Why's that?" "Because this time," he said, "no one tried to pretend I wasn't part of it." I didn't say anything back. I just reached under the table and squeezed his hand. After dessert, homemade pie from Jenna, plus a tray of store-bought cookies because I panicked at the last minute, Luke handed me another one of his little folded papers. Same as last year. Only this time, the chart had grown. Me. Him. Jenna. The twins. And one of the formerly empty chairs now had a stick figure labeled, "Maybe Eliza?" with a question mark and a smiley face. "Who's that?" I asked, even though I already knew. "Eliza," he said. "Jenna's cousin? The one who brought me the Lego space book." I nodded. "She said she wants to come next year." I looked at the chair. "A maybe. An earned maybe." "Sounds good," I said. "She's welcome. If she brings pie." Luke grinned. "Deal." That night, while he snored softly from the second room, I sat by the fireplace with a blanket and a cup of cocoa, just thinking. Not about the mortgage. Not about Caroline's panicked calls. Not about my parents' silence, or my dad's guilt-trip text from 2 days earlier. "Your mom misses you. Family's not supposed to stay broken." I thought about Luke. And the way he laughed during charades with the twins. The way he carved the word peace into a pumpkin with a plastic knife. The way he didn't flinch when we passed by a group photo in Jenna's hallway and he wasn't in it, because he knew, next time, he would be. He was no longer on the edge of the frame. He was finally in the middle of the picture. And me? I wasn't holding everything together by paying everyone else's bills. I was holding space for my son. The right way. The quiet way. The real way. Christmas came and went without a single call from my parents. Not even a generic text. No. "Happy holidays." No. "We're thinking of you." Nothing. And honestly, that silence used to feel like punishment. Now, it felt like relief. Luke didn't notice. He was too busy building a Mars rover replica Jenna gave him, narrating its imaginary mission like it was a live feed. We made hot chocolate with candy cane spoons. Watched Home Alone twice. Spent the evening in matching pajamas, navy ones, covered in planets. At one point he looked up at me and said, "I like our holidays better." "Yeah?" I asked. "What makes them better?" He shrugged. "They feel warmer." It hit me in the gut. Not because it hurt, but because he was right. It was warmer. Even without the full table, the big house, or the chaos of forced tradition. It was just safe. Honest. Ours. Later that night, I walked past the fridge and saw his chart still taped up. Thanksgiving equals me and Dad and people who act like family. I added a star next to it with a sticky note. Best equation I've ever seen. A week later, Luke brought home a school project, a poster titled, "My Family." There were pictures of us at the cabin. A drawing of the Bahamas, a cutout of a turkey leg. In the corner, he glued a photo from the resort, the one where we're both laughing in snorkel masks, water dripping down our faces. And next to it, he wrote in big, uneven letters, "Family means the people who make you feel like you belong. Mine is my dad." I stared at it longer than I should have. Not because it surprised me, but because I finally believed I'd earned it. I used to think being a good son meant sacrifice, staying quiet, footing the bill. That love was something you proved by showing up, even when it hurt. But love isn't a mortgage. It's not a seat at a table where your kid gets leftovers. It's a hand on their shoulder, a plate already waiting, a seat with their name on it, every single time. I folded one of the two empty chairs and leaned it against the wall. The table finally looked right. And we were home.